right, it is that time once again, ladies and gentlemen. Let's hit the books alongside the man, the myth, the legend himself, Mr. Joey Knish, fresh off some daytime viewing of hockey, maybe. Maybe he's watching the Daytona 500. Yeah. We also have producer extraordinaire, Zach Phillips. I am merely Brad Powers. Guys, the last 6 weeks have flown by since we last talked to you. Hasn't been void of news when it comes to college football, to say the least. We had, obviously, a guy by the name of Nick Saban. You might have heard of him. He retires. Jim Harbaugh leaves to go to the Chargers. And a bunch of other dominoes fall from those two coaching moves in themselves. So since we last talked to you, about 15, 20 jobs have opened up. We'll give you some thoughts as far as the head coaching moves. We'll give you some thoughts, some early, maybe win total thoughts. I mean, I'm not going to say that we're going to give out a bunch of best bets. I know that there's some fear out there that we're going to ruin a market. We'll try not to do that. But if you got a question on a certain win total, we'll certainly get to that. And obviously, we'll get to the chat. Chat looks pretty active here for a President's Day. First and foremost, though, Knish, how you been, man? Long time no talk.
Good, babe. Ready to get back into it. Little time away, recharge the battery, getting back in. I seen you tweet already about the spring game schedules that we got coming up here. So, and yeah, it's been, man, you know what? It is totally, and this is probably a good thing for maybe the longstanding. It's an NFL cycle now, like there is no, it used to be, pause, nothing happens, no news. Now you got with the transfer portal and the coaching changes and the spring ball and the windows and the drama with the NIL and they're being sued. So like there really is no quote unquote offseason anymore. They've kind of maybe unintentionally, it's like the NFL did this strategically. I don't know if college football did this, but they did it where now there is there's not really like any break, at least in terms of the news cycle. So been hot and heavy, and excited to get back into it.
Yeah, I mean, and mentioning that, I mean, I've been tweeting about it. There's a few teams, if you follow all 134 in college football, there's a few teams already started spring practice. In fact, next Sunday, not this Sunday, but next Sunday, Hawaii has their spring game already. Actually, you know what it is? It's this upcoming Sunday, their spring game. So yeah, never an off season when it comes to college football. I guess we probably could have continued doing the show weekly. What I didn't want to do was start making some proclamations, and then stuff is constantly changing as far as the portal, head coaching news. We have another transfer portal coming up. Obviously, I'd like to watch some spring games to get a feel for it. So I don't want to be like, flip-flopping constantly on these teams, but that might be the case in this offseason as far as our evaluations. Let me ask you first and foremost, your thoughts on the Michigan situation. Harbaugh leaving, obviously, no surprise, Sharon Moore. You were on that hell in October that it would likely be the case that he'd be the heir apparent. Your thoughts on that transition? Your thoughts on how he's filled out his staff, and what's your outlook for Michigan? I know you and I have been going back and forth on Twitter today.
Yeah, you know what? That the obviously the Sharon Moore wasn't surprising. Some of the downstream moves, though, the Ben Herbert leaving, the Mike Elston leaving, a lot of him poaching, the Steve Klinkscale, a lot of additional staff members. I thought Jesse Minter would go, but I thought that'd be the extent of it, and it was not the extent of it. And so Harbaugh poaching half the staff, I think was, challenging for Sharon Moore to walk into. Now, I think he's done a good job backfilling with some of these guys that I like. But that was kind of an extra layer of challenge that maybe you weren't expecting. Also, word on the street is that the second that Jim walked out the door, Sharon Moore's first we'll call it order of business was to start getting some additional NIL rolling, because as you've seen, the roster poach, compare what happened in Alabama during their 30-day window to Michigan. And I'll tell you what happened was I think they stepped up and matched some offers, to be blunt, and especially for some defensive linemen that other teams were going after. Now, they did just lose one of their backup safeties that I really liked, but overall,
is there anybody left on offense, though? I mean, I got like one guy back.
Well, you know who is coming back? Jackie Tuttle, baby, quarterback there. And I tell you what, I joke around all you want. I think there was, and again, Alex Orji's the guy everybody talks about with the ceiling, and he could be the guy. Let me tell you something. If he can't complete a pass, you can't play football like that
Yeah.
anymore in 2024. So I think Tuttle at least gives you a floor that you didn't have before that. So I expect to see both guys. And I expect them to go into Columbus and be a one possession game coming up there.
Oh, look at that.
So yeah, you know what? Honestly, it was a game
They're up at the kiosk now.
The game of the years are some other
Win totals are not.
yeah, some other things we might want to bet are not, but the game of the years that they have on the app are all on the kiosk.
Let me know when they hit the kiosk. Those opportunities still. I've been very quiet on win totals.
Yep.
I sent out a list
today
but,
specifically.
Yeah.
But yeah, that is one. You know what? And so where are you at number wise in terms of that game right now as we sit on February 19th with plenty to change?
I made it 11.5. So
woo!
You want me to walk you through it? I mean, I downgraded Michigan 7 points. I think that's fair. I've graded maybe the disagreements with the Buckeyes, and I can understand it because, look, I am worried about Ohio State's ability to win a national championship and the fact that I'm not a big fan of the quarterback situation. I think they obviously are stacked everywhere else. I'd like to watch the offensive line during the spring and see how they are. I upgraded the Buckeyes 4 points. I mean, they are loaded at every position, man. And keep in mind, that's an upgrade over 4 points from what they were, after the Missouri game, which was probably the low point of their power rating in the entire season. So, yeah, I got 11.5. So I'm pretty good at predicting line moves. I think you should have said, hey, man, where do you think this line is? I think you're going to get 10 in this offseason, this summer. I think you'll be able to get a better number on that Michigan-Ohio State game. But we'll see. I mean, obviously, there was also a concern that Ohio State's mentality under Ryan Day leaves a little bit to be desired when it comes to physicality. So I know Michigan will have a chip on their shoulder in that game, to say the least. So, I mean, I just think you could have, for your sake, I think you could have gotten a better number. I'm just looking out.
Hey, no shame and get doubling down, baby, once we get that 10 or 11. So, yeah, it'll be interesting to see. I agree. It's very polarizing in terms of how high do you bump up Ohio State versus how much do you drop? I mean, you have to drop Michigan. How much do they drop? I would probably be a little bit more bullish on them.
7's not fair? You think you would be less than that?
7, you know what? It really is going to depend. I'm probably a little bit higher on what they're returning on offense in terms of some of the linemen that have been in the program. Also a little bit more bullish. I mean, just one tweet, all it took was to be polarized by Jack Tuttle, because I had a few people saying yes, and then a bunch of people saying no, he sucks. I mean, this guy was a former top 100 recruit, and he's played some football. So I'm not out on him in terms of being a massive – listen, and I know J.J. McCarthy's going to go in the first round. I know he won a national championship.
He's going to go earlier than – I mean, he's going early.
You look at what they asked him to do last year, it's not like he had to be, the Baker Mayfield for this team to win games last year. The quarterback position in Michigan has been very insulated in terms of what they've designed around it for them to function. So we'll see. Obviously, it could be one of a high variance year, especially with the schedule for Michigan.
Yeah, speaking of that schedule, it does get much more difficult this season. Now, they open up the season with 5 straight home games again, but in those 5 games, Texas and USC are in the mix. So it's not all the East Carolinas, the UNLVs, the Bowling Greens of the world. So it'll be interesting. Now, I will say on your behalf, I'd like to, I'm open as far as opinions on any of these teams. I like watching spring games, or at least getting a feel for it. So we'll see on Michigan. Let's get to 2 more situations quick, and then we'll hit to the chat. Your thoughts on what's went down, relating to Michigan. Obviously, you go a few hours south to Columbus. What's your thoughts on the Buckeyes offseason so far? Obviously, they've hit the portal heavy. Caleb Downs, safety. Quinshawn Judkins at wide receiver. They bring in, as far as probably the best true freshman in the country, Jeremiah Smith at wide receiver. Coaching staff-wise, they bring in Chip Kelly to call plays after, a 2-week stint with Bill O'Brien there. your thoughts on the Buckeyes? You giving them thumbs up? I think everybody's going to say at least an upgrade over what they were last year, but how big is that upgrade? Because I've already kind of mentioned it. I still have some reservations about Will Howard, to say the least.
Yeah, great. And you know what? I think, talent-wise, you kind of saw that. I think the program itself and the donors realize, probably, you lose 3 straight to Michigan and they win a national title. I think some people woke up and said, here's a check. What do you need to go get Caleb Downs and Quishon Judkins and entice a lot of guys who probably would have otherwise jumped in the draft, cutting them some big checks to come back and return it. So I think the program itself is good. Do I love the I don't know why they seem to be transitioning away from like the CJ Stroud passing offense, which was a field goal away from winning a national title. I know they lost 3 straight to Michigan, but like to this more, what Chip Kelly's done at UCLA, what they tried to do last year, which is more like physical, run the ball. I know Michigan just like had success with that. I think I am much, I would say, invested in having a prolific passing offense in terms of winning games and winning national titles than I am thinking that, running the ball is back all of a sudden. So there's nothing wrong with that. I'm just shocked with the talent, the quarterback talent and the wide receiver talent they're able to get, that they're going that way. And I think worst case scenario, this is you set up Ryan Day for a make or break. I think Texas did this with Sark and said, we're going to give him all these resources, and if he doesn't come through, we're going to get rid of him. We're going to bring somebody else in, and we still have a lot of the resources. And I think you've seen that with Ryan Day, where we're going to retain a lot of this talent, and if he doesn't, if he can't do it this year, we're getting rid of him.
Oh, you think it's that serious as far as his job?
If he
better not lose to Michigan.
Big 10 I'm not going to say national championship. He doesn't beat Michigan and win the Big Ten this year, I think he's gone.
I think he has to beat Michigan. Big Ten's a little different this year with Oregon in the mix. Keep in mind, they did have to go to Autzen.
Mm-hmm.
There is a team nobody's talking about. Now, I don't like James Franklin much.
But
but they get Ohio State
I knew you were going to say it. The coordinator hires, I like a lot. They got to go to Happy Valley.
Kotelnicki from Kansas is really good. Major upgrade at OC. Tom Allen's not a head coach, but he is a defensive coordinator.
Yep.
So, they got a lot of guys back. Nobody's talking about them. That's a team that's old Lee Corso sneaking around the chicken coop a little bit. We'll talk more Penn State throughout the course of this offseason. But Buckeyes have to play both at Oregon at Penn State. Yeah. That's why I haven't, even though you think, he's way high on the Buckeyes, I haven't bet their win total or anything. But I think they have plenty of losable games still on that schedule, especially if they don't have quarterback play like they had with the CJ Stroud. One final one, then we'll get to the chat. Your thoughts on what's gone down in Tuscaloosa this last 6 weeks? Nick Saban, not stunned that he left, but a little bit surprised that ended up being the case. I thought Alabama did a nice job. Kalen DeBoer, whether he fits in the South or not, I'm not sure there was a better coach the last couple of years in the country as far as maximizing what he was given. I mean, when you go 25-2 or 25-3 in 2 years when he inherited a losing program, I think he's brilliant as far as X's and O's. Obviously, he's going to have more talent than he's ever worked with before. A little concerned what's went down there. If you're following in the weeds the last week, I mean, his OC, his right-hand man, Ryan Grubb, who's with them at almost every stop, leaves to go to the Seahawks. The offensive line coach leaves, goes to the Seahawks. So I'm selling Alabama right now. I know Tailgate Tent wants to buy. I'm as of right now, I'm in sell mode when it comes to the Crimson Tide. What do you think?
You know what? I don't know if the retirement totally shocked me, and I loved the DeBoer hire. So I think from just those perspectives, but what happened to the roster in that 30-day window and the recruiting site was borderline shocking to me. And then some stuff comes out that maybe, kids have been taking the old Bama discount to go play for Nick Saban, and their internal NIL and mechanisms maybe isn't as what you would think it would be at Alabama. And a lot of that was Nick Saban driving it. And now, I mean, to me, like you're already following like the GOAT, and now you're setting him up, in year one with a number of guys. Like, to me, if you couldn't match a check for Caleb Downs, like, I don't know what you're doing. I mean, you want to play big boy football or what in terms of having the best talent, that type of thing. So that was kind of shocking to me in some of the things that have happened since then. And as you said, they basically like pulled a little head fake with Ryan Grubb. He's here. Wait for the window to close. Oh, nope, they're going to the NFL with the offensive guys. So yeah, don't love that. Still believe in DeBoer, but how much leash do you I mean, if let's say they go 7-5 this year, in a down year, not that I'm projecting, but how much leash does he have to build it back and then to get, the back into the 10-11 win realm? So going to be a little tougher than I thought.
Yeah. I don't know if they're going to go 7-5, but I will say this. I think 3 losses are on the table, if you catch my drift.
Agreed.
They haven't done that in the regular season since 2010. But that's definitely on the table when you look at the schedule. Won't find out too much about them until, that Camp Randall trip will be interesting up at Wisconsin. They also got Georgia early on in the schedule too at home there. So yeah, I thumbs up for the hire. He's not going to have, I've already seen with the comments from the fan base. I don't know if they're going to have any patience there like they should.
I agree. I think, and listen, it was like, man, I don't know if you could have asked for a better hire than the way it lined up for him, but they gotta. I agree. They gotta get behind him and kind of be, what Saban lose in his first year? I forget what the official record was.
Lost to Louisiana Monroe. He went 7-6, I think.
Yeah. So to me, I'm not saying it's got to hit that level, but you cannot expect just a continuation of what you had here. I think there's going to be a little bit of transition cost.
I would consider making I know it's 12 teams now, but making the playoffs would be, I would give a thumbs up for that in year one. I know people are like, what are you talking about making the playoffs? We're here to win it, but we'll see. I don't think Alabama's been necessarily greatly coached the last 2-3 years. When you say 3 losses, go look at their last 3 years. They were very close to 3 losses as it was. Bryce Young bailed them out of games, 4th and 31 last year. Otherwise, they'd have lost that game to Auburn. I think there was the other Auburn game a few years ago. All Tank Bigsby had to do was lie down on the ground. He runs out of bounds. That clock would have ran out. So very, very fortunate that they won as many games as they did the last 3 years. I don't know if they'll catch the breaks this year. All right, we waited long enough. Chat's been patient. I just wanted to hit those major topics before we get into it. Charles, very loyal guy all season. And first out of the gates here. I love having the guys doing the show this early. Brad, which win totals did you crush at FanDuel already that you can share? Anyone beat you to any? Yeah, that's happened because I was waiting. I didn't want to bet them. Also see Bet Online has some posted. So, yeah, let's attack the elephant in the room, so to speak. I did bet a lot of them. I've kept quiet because I don't want to ruin the market, honestly. So it's not like I'm giving them out to clients or, put them on Twitter or anything. Bet them in a very account that wouldn't be considered sharp. I'll just put it that way. An SGP type of account. So yeah, I bet you're not going to believe it, but I bet about 25 of them. So I would have bet maybe 50 if it was in July. I'm very shocked. I know it gets early every year, man. Let me just attack that one before I share any. I'm stunned that they came up that early. Are you? Because that was, I think it was the night of the national championship. They started posting some week 1 and some game of the year lines. And then to have win totals, not just for your fun win totals. Okay, Nick Saban left. Let's put an Alabama win total up. Or Deion Sanders has put since he's so polarizing, let's put Colorado's win total up. But to put all 70 power teams in early February, I'm stunned by that. That's so early even for a guy like me.
Yeah, no, I hear someone actually, and I would go back. I wish I'd give him the credit. Tweeted at it like guys get back to work. And I was like, what is he saying? And went over to the app and looked and was like, what is going on? Yeah. So yeah, I was shy, and I agree. It's like before, as you're saying, before the spring window opens, before spring ball. I mean, you could have a Power 5, your Power 5 quarterback transfer out, and it would be 1.5 wins or something like that. So yeah, I agree. I would have preferred it a little. And as you're saying, it'd be one thing if they got put out and you had 10 copiers, but I would say they extremely thin and fragile at the moment. So yeah, we might have we might have one that we might go head to head on here.
Yeah.
But
we'll share a couple. I'm not gonna go lock and best bet, but I'll share a few. If you ask me about a team, I'll say if I bet over or under. But I'm not here to say best bet because I'll be honest with you, there is an opportunity that I'll be completely opposite that in 2 months. I personally like watching spring games, and I want the next portal is going to be more active than usual, in my opinion. It's typically a lot less volume than the window in December. It'll still be less volume, but I do think there's some important pieces. If I'm a coach and I got a glaring need coming out of spring, I go buy that guy. I don't care if he's in the portal or not. Tampering, who cares? NCAA doesn't have any jurisdiction or rule. I go buy that player.
He hasn't won a court case in 30 years. Like tampering, what are we gonna say? What tamper? Like how the tampering? Like every move that had Notre Dame had like the last 2 quarterbacks lined up like 3 days after the season ended. So like, and who cares? Who's there? Who's gonna do anything about it?
Yeah. So there's still a major concern there where power ratings could be moving considerably. So I'll share what I bet, but I'm already anticipating, out of those 20 win totals or so that I bet, I'll probably play opposite, 5 or 6 of them at some point during this offseason. So I don't like giving out a lot of that stuff when I'll be opposite in 2-3 months. With that being said, let's bet online's low limits. I'll tag the limits. Bet online's what, 250, so you can't hardly get anything down there. I was able to get some stuff down on FanDuel. So I'm sure most are limited there. But if you have a Square account, you can get probably a dime on the app.
Yep.
If you got a Square account. So that's not too bad for February. Yeah, I can't believe that those opened up as early as they did. I'm ready to go in May. May 1st, I'll be ready. What do you think of Matt Wells to Kansas State? They're not usually the place to get coaches trying to reclimb the ladder to be a coordinator. This is from Isaac in the chat. Yeah, I'll give a thumbs up for the hire there. Getting a guy with head coaching experience. They lose, obviously, Colin Klein to Texas A&M. I think that's a loss. I mean, you're talking about a legacy player there at Kansas State, and he's done a good job as the OC the last few years. But, yeah, Kansas State's interesting team. I think they're certainly one of the favorites in the Big 12, which is a very wide open conference. I think they're right there with Utah. I think Arizona, obviously, is going to take a little bit of a step back in a transition year. But that Kansas State and Utah, for me, are probably the 2 best teams, at least as of right now in the Big 12 heading into the season.
Yeah, I would agree. It's kind of a team that's overperformed their talent level and power rating going back for as long as I've been invested in college football at Kansas State. But I agree. I mean, that's a tough line. They cut some big checks over there, damn. So I can see it. But having a guy that obviously had their unique offense kind of even in a pretty good position, and a team that's had a lot of success the last few years. And as you're saying, with the 2 big boys out of the Big 12 now, I mean, wide open in terms of being able to maybe be like the team in that conference going forward, or at least, one of the top, 2 dogs. So, yeah, but it just is what it is. It's one of those things where, and this we can go, this is more of a macro conversation too, but like there's this new coach. I mean, you talk about players getting poached. Now it's coaching. It's like position coaches where teams are going, like if you're a G5 OC position guy, OC or DC, you might be taking, I mean, Michigan just took Louisiana's DC and made him a position coach. And that's one of, 100 examples. And then the next part of that is like, I think this whole college year-round cycle is burning a ton of older guys out, where they're shipping off to the NFL at rates that where if there's an NFL job, you can't pluck guys from the NFL anymore, or they're going to be a retread, a guy like Wink Martindale or something, where he's kind of had a couple of jobs there, and that's the guy you might have to get to continue the system, but. College football has really got and I don't know, we're not going to solve it here in 5 minutes, but it's becoming a job, especially if you're a mid-level staff where you're not making, the life-changing money at the top, that is an insane ask. You're working 360. There is no off season. You're texting, you're recruiting your own team, and you're recruiting guys. Like there's no, and I think just guys are jumping at whatever chance they can, especially in the pro leagues to kind of make that happen or make as much money as they can because you might be burnt out by 40. So I don't know. You got any thoughts on just the coaching, the status of that overall?
Yes, I mean, obviously, there's conflicting thoughts. I know Bud Elliott's like, oh, they're just taking all these jobs they're taking are quote unquote better jobs. But yet, I mean, if that was the case, we'd see a lot of these happening every offseason. And this has been the first offseason. I mean, this kind of goes in with Charles' next comment. One of the late coaching departures matter, which of them? They all matter, to be honest with you. As far as like a guy like Sean Elliott goes from being the Georgia State head coach, says forget it, not even going to be a coordinator,
right?
Just an assistant, just a position type coach.
That's wild.
You mentioned
like,
it.
That is a head.
Have you ever seen that before? That's never. I mean,
I don't recall. I'd say I can't recall one. Like maybe in an NFL, but like for an FBS head coach to then go to another team as a position coach and probably make more money.
Chip Kelly, UCLA, head coach to coordinator at a place like UCLA. We've never seen that before. Come on. Yeah, certainly if they're making the jump to the NFL, that's one thing. I get not wanting to coach college ball, but we haven't seen basically these group of 5 programs not only being a feeder system as far as the players, but now being a feeder system for the coaches. It's a problem. So I don't know what the fix is.
I agree.
The fix is this: 40 or 50 programs are going to separate themselves and basically become a new division in college football, and they'll have their own playoff or whatever. Maybe it's the Big Ten and SEC. Obviously, the 2 powers, kind of an AFC NFC thing. That's what it's going to become, and you can either go with that model or you can stand back and. It would actually be fun, I'd be honest with you, to see who wants to make that decision to go be with that group. And then like some of the tweener programs, hey, do we, stay with the model, the NCAA model, and play for our own type of title here? I don't know. I'm guessing that's what's coming down the pike because the Georgia States of the world, the Bowling Greens of the world, those schools will never, ever, ever be able to compete financially. And now if your coaches are going to get poached for position coaches, I don't know where that leaves you. The calendar for the coaches has to change because it's just not sustainable. How do you fix it? I think you've seen some fix it a little bit. Like if you want less, if you're a Ryan Day and you want a little bit less on your plate, you can go hire Chip Kelly to be your coordinator. He can run. Hey, I'll just be a CEO. I'll recruit, be the face of it. Chip Kelly can handle the offense. Obviously, the DC can handle the defense, and I'm just, the CEO type of thing. I think that's, and if I'm getting paid $10 million a year, I think that would be attractive. What's not attractive is, a head coach at BYU or a head coach at Georgia State or Bowling Green, where not only do you have to be a CEO, but you also got the recruiting process, and then maybe you're a play caller for offense or defense. That is not sustainable with the current calendar. Man,
I agree with you. I don't know.
Do you have any faith that it's going to get changed, though? Nothing gets done. And all these were issues that didn't pop up in the last 365 days. There were so many of these issues, whether it's NIL, transfer portal, all this stuff was coming down the pikes for years, if not decades, and nobody did a damn thing.
No, I'm with you. And they really, and I don't know how it's going to happen in the letter of college student athlete, Title IX, all that, but they have to find a way to get player contracts in some way, shape, or form of, you can't do this circus every year of like having to re-recruit your entire roster. And listen, I'm not against guys making money, getting paid or any of that. But I mean, even the like we're calling this basically a semi-pro sport and a pro sport now. Even that you don't have guys, like every year popping into free agency where you could lose, you don't know what's so. Yeah, and I agree. It's just and that's what the NCAA has done for decades: is kick the can down the road. And now they're losing. And now the can's getting shoved down their throat, but because they can't win a court case, and it's all falling apart for them. So I don't know. And as guys that have obviously been fans of the sport for a long time, I don't know where it's going because it feels like they don't have a direction. And then it's kind of like, who's running the show here? Who's in charge? Who's going to put in some of this framework to make the game better or any of that stuff? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know either. I'm a little worried. It'll be a fun year this year with the 12-team playoff, but I mean, 5-10 years down the road, I'm worried about the sport. Charles, to answer your question though, which of the late coaching departures matter? I mean, recently Sean Elliott at Georgia State leaving. I mean, they were already in spring practice. They were going to have a spring game in a couple weeks, and they had to postpone it. Obviously, they're in a sell situation at that point. They promoted the strength coach to be the interim coach right now, so they have some issues there. I kind of like, maybe not for this year, but maybe long term. I do like Pete Lembo at Buffalo. Nobody's going to talk about that, but I think he's a damn good coach. He's one of the best special teams coaches in the country. I think he got kind of a raw deal at Ball State. Go look at his record there.
Yep.
So I like him back in the MAC. And but Linguist was another guy left as a head coach for Buffalo to be a position coach in Alabama. Yeah, I actually like that for Buffalo long term. Maybe not this year, but long term. Dave in the chat. I knew we'd get to this one. Colorado's win total 5.5 at FanDuel. Believe it or not,
I know
two
where
of my
you
win total bets. I have 2 bets on Colorado already, and it's right in between this number: over 4.5, under 6.5. I think 5.5 is about right. If you want to bet it now, hold up your money. I would lean under 5.5. Where are you at here?
You know what? I can't believe I'm kind of taking this position either. I'm leaning towards a little bit of an over here. Now, I do think, like, you know what? I know they tried to. It's hard to fix the offensive line through the portal, and I know that's what they tried. I don't know if a ton of the guys they brought in are great, but I think this year it's a bit friendlier in terms of, and again, I just think they'll be a bit more established. They kind of recognize what they need to do. I think the defense will be a touch better. But I would lean again. Would I bet 5.5 with my own money? No, but some of these games, especially the North Dakota game,
that's a big swing game immediately.
Yeah, isn't your brother's North Dakota State anymore? If you would, not to get too far in the weeds here. And I think that the overall the Big 12. We talked about a lot. Like, there's just a lot more coin flip type games in the Big 12 than you had, last year in the Pac-12, where it was probably the best rendition of the Pac-12 we had seen before the conference blew up in 10 years or maybe even longer. That there was just some games you weren't going to win on that schedule. So yeah, I'd be right about there. And I think anything 6 wins or above would be a success for year 2 under Dion. And to be honest with you, I wouldn't be surprised if year 2, because I think their athletic director, just if he has a 6 or 7 win season, I think he might be on the move after this year.
Might be. I would lay money on that right now. This is it for Dion. Over. 2 and out.
I agree.
Regardless of what happens. If it's bad, he'll be out. If it's good, he's out. If it's mediocre, they get to a bowl game like you mentioned, he's out. This is it. And if it's not, then he's got issues because he only signed 6 or 7 freshmen.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't build a program like that. Come on. Christ of Harper. Are there any good power rating tools like KenPom for college basketball, for college football? Yeah, Sagarin, Bill Connolly are some out there. I mean, I'm not going to toot my own horn, but I post my weekly power ratings. Those are okay. So is there a site like KenPom? No. Part of me doesn't want a site like that for football.
Yeah, you know what?
It's a cheat sheet for everybody. Now, if you know the weaknesses of it, then you could probably profit off of that. You probably would profit off of it if something became that so market dominant, and you knew the weaknesses. You could probably take advantage of it for a couple of years, but then after that, then the value would be gone.
It's a great point. The game itself, football, and the limited amount of samples, I think makes it, and just the more variables, makes it harder in general than a game like basketball. But you nailed it, where the second KenPom created, maybe there was this little window, but college basketball betting became just not as soft as it used to be. I mean, we're talking even within a very short period of time. That I agree. There was instantly a barometer for sites to use that was much better than anything that had ever been created. And you've seen it with some people in the space that used to be very dominant at college basketball, that it's gotten a lot harder.
Yeah.
And so that's not
I mean, the availability of people betting in, they know, hey, Ken Palm drives the market. It's not the market, but it drives the market. And people, hey, I'm okay bet my $100 on an overnight at 6 p.m. on the night before.
Yeah.
I'm going to go ahead and move the market. And then you're going to try to beat that market on a game day. I don't care how sharp you are. It's tough.
It's tough.
So.
And as the one thing I would say is like, there was a time, I don't know, Bill Connolly, we could, he was really in it for a few years. It seems like his S&P plus number, which was, and I don't know why I'm sure there's some people more technical than I have that could kind of speak to it, but it used to be much more of a market indicator than it is today, where
I agree.
I'm not going to say it's not relevant. It's just, in terms of like what we do on a show, whether you want to beat a market, beat a number in that, I don't know how much it still has, how much juice it still has in terms of any influence in that. So, and I don't know exactly why, but it's one of those things where, even 3-4 years ago, I think there's some people that like bet off of S&P plus or lead it. Now,
there was.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it was me, but I know a lot of guys that were. I'll tackle that. And again, this is not a knock on Bill Connolly, the person, or I don't know him or anything like that. Anytime I make a comment, everyone's like, "Oh, I can't believe you're getting after Bill like that." It's not like that. The reality is what you said. It's not as good as when he was doing those team previews 4 or 5 years ago. And hey, look, I don't care how much money you have, how much, how smart you are. We're all constrained by 24 hours in a day. And what it appears on the outside is he likes soccer, and he's writing and doing a lot of soccer stuff that he wasn't when he was working at SB Nation.
Yeah.
And so I think some of his time's been taken away from that. He works for ESPN now. I'm sure that there's some things he's got to do there that he probably weren't on his plate at an organization like SB Nation. He just came out with I'll tell you one thing that drives an offseason market is his returning production. And again, this isn't a knock on him. It's just not accurate. I've done my own.
That was coming out of my mouth. That
start charts, rosters, stat packs from last year that I went through. So there's some teams that are off significantly. And he just released this article last week.
Yeah.
I mean, there's teams that are like, he's got ranked like would be 100th or something in returning production. I think they're top 10 from going over their spring roster. It's just not accurate, and you can't bet off of it. I'm being honest.
Yeah, I agree. I think he's kind of scraping some stuff that used to be, again, again, as you're saying there with what you're doing, returning production used to be, a lot easier than it is now. Now you really got to dig to put it together with all the portals in and out and stuff and what's coming in. So,
it's just not the portals. We're still dealing with COVID. I mean, you think, this guy was a fifth-year guy, he can't come back. Yeah, he can come back. And again, the NCAA has
seventh-year guy. Give him the waiver.
Yeah, so everybody gets a waiver now. So it's a lot of legwork. So I've worked on it for 6 weeks, and literally to the point where if I'm not sure about a guy and I don't have the roster in front of me, it's not updated, I've literally gone to their social media to see if they can give me any context clues, whether they're, in winter conditioning or not. That's what you have to do with some of these. And if you're just scraping, like you said, data, and I've seen some of the back end stuff on some of these. I know one guy, he has a really good back end, but I've had to send him like 300 guys that he didn't have. And I'm not talking a guy that played 5 snaps
right.
on senior day. I'm talking guys on the depth chart that weren't there, 2-3 guys a team. So be careful with that. Now, when Bill updates them after the spring in May, then they'll be much more accurate. But be careful with those stuff that he just released on February. Let's get back to the chat. I couldn't believe we're going to go an hour, maybe even a little bit longer today. I can't believe this. Tom, college basketball futures already placed or eyeing going forward. Have you made a college basketball future bet?
I have. It's funny. People are asking me, Tom, you must not. I just said I don't have any. Honestly, and this is not to. We're really, we're deep diving today in the macro. I think that's one of the worst uses of your capital portfolio is building a college basketball futures portfolio. It is so high variance in the tournament that I really don't think you see that pay off in a lot of instances. So no, I have been betting. I don't watch, but I have been betting college basketball for some people regularly. So been in the market, but no, I just, and that's not, I think there's so many better uses of your whatever liquidity you have in terms of futures than college basketball. I just think it's one of that's my opinion. Some other people might enjoy. I know people like, March Madness having a nice ticket, but I just really don't think that pays off in terms of the time and what you have to put into it, even to get a manageable portfolio.
And obviously, mechanically speaking, I mean, your money line part, rolling it over.
Yeah, that's the
always going to pay out more. And tying that in with college football, probably, with having to win 3 games now. Do you want to bet Georgia 4-1, 5-1, 6-1 right now? Have your money tied up when all you got to do is bet them each round of the playoffs, and you're probably going to get better payoff than that. So I haven't been wild about betting college football futures.
I haven't taken a single. I agree. I saw a friend of the show now, Colin Wilson, bet some Georgia. I haven't.
Price? 5-1.
Yeah, I think it was 5-1. There's nothing else really.
Go look at the when three games. Wouldn't that pay out more? I could just do it right now and not even know what the
right. I'm with you because it's not and even some of the teams that you might like. Maybe a make the playoff when those come out, which I assume they will.
That's the market.
Yeah,
that I'm anticipating. Hopefully, that's expansive. Includes group of 5 schools. Make or not make the playoff. That is going to be the market you take advantage of.
Yeah, I'm with. Again, we'll use a team like Missouri, who a lot coming back, invested a lot in the program. I think there was some 100 when we first did the end of the year show. It was like 100-1. It's been bet down, and I got a Missouri fan, one of my good buddies I bet with. Could I see them making the playoff? Having a year it all comes together. Sure. Then to win 3 more games versus upper echelon teams, and to then get it, it's like when do you? I don't know. What number do you need to even make that? And it just doesn't make a lot of sense. I think for the majority of teams now, to even bet those prices. So I'm with you there that I think there'll be better markets to use then. And we even said this during the 14 for the most part. National championship market wasn't a great value. So no, I'm with you. I just don't see it in terms of why you'd want to place a lot of wagers on the futures market there.
Jimmy in the chat, how about Rutgers? I love this. We are deep diving. I love our audience. Rutgers thoughts, and I don't think that's not up at FanDuel, is it? Rutgers, because of the New Jersey stuff, kept most of their key players, have a very favorable schedule. I think that's the biggest takeaway. They do not play any of the big boys in the Big Ten. Unbelievable favorable schedule for Rutgers. Thoughts? I think it's another bowl season for them, which should be considered a very successful season for Rutgers. I think Shiano's doing a good job. 3 of the last 4 recruiting classes have been in the top 40. He's got them. I mean, I know you're not winning as many games as what you were in the Big East, but I think when you're getting the bowl eligibility in that Big Ten, that's about as good as it gets for Rutgers football at this point. So he's doing a great job. And I think this year they're capable of reaching that. Although we'll see quarterback. Callie McManus is there.
Yeah,
he can't throw it. I thought the point of bringing in a transfer quarterback to help Winsat, I was get a guy who could throw the football. Callie McManus can't throw. So
yeah, I did not like that whatsoever. I agree with you. He's almost like, I'm not going to say he's totally maxed it out, but I don't know what, especially in the new Big Ten where you might get a schedule what's as good as it gets. Like you said, 6 or 7 wins.
Maybe 8.
Right.
8 would be you throw a parade,
but that's it. That's what that's the new in these mega conferences. If you're a bottom half team, that's your. I'm not trying to sound like draconian here, but that's kind of your pinnacle is to an 8-4 season.
That's why I hope they keep the Bulls. For programs like that, it's very important for programs like that. Other than that, it's going to get to the point where what's the point?
Right.
Get my head kicked in. It's Wade in the chat. Thoughts on the Big Ten newcomers win totals? Anything stick out? Oh, you know what? I didn't bet any of them. Oh yeah, I did. I that one moved though, so we won't talk about that one. I bet that on the Chip Kelly news.
Yeah, I was gonna say. I know there's one that moved a full win that would have liked.
There was 3 of them that moved to win, so everyone's gonna blame me for this stuff. Hey, I didn't bet Iowa over that moved to full win. I didn't bet Oklahoma over that moved from 6.5 to 7.5. You probably thought I did. I didn't get to it. It was already gone by the time I got around to it. Nebraska moved to full win. I didn't bet any of them, so I'm not the only one betting this shit.
Yeah, I don't. I agree. I thought that was the best bet on the board was the UCLA under 6.5 when it was there.
Yeah,
but
that one I did bet. Yeah, that.
Yeah, I agree. Then I think that was that of the new Big Ten, of the Big Ten in general. I think that was kind of the bit. I mean, it was going to kind of be a long year for UCLA to begin with, and now to lose your head coach, lose your quarterback, lose a lot of talent on defense, lose your DC, now come in and have to play at LSU.
Yeah, at LSU non-conference.
At Penn State, USC, which I don't know. I could see it being
4-8.
I was gonna say I could see a 4-8 too. I could see like even against these Nebraska or Minnesota, Nebraska, Rutgers, Iowa, which aren't the elite teams. Like, I mean, you're gonna go
there.
You're gonna go at Nebraska in November. You're gonna go, like at Rutgers. Like, these are games that UCLA, the program culture for a while, you could have seen them losing. Like, those are all toss-up games in my mind, even though it might be a short favorite. That, I don't know. I don't love traveling all the way over to play, a physical Big Ten Old West team and want to. So, yeah, I don't love it. I'm not going to lie in terms of UCLA's outlook this year and going forward.
What is this?
Oh, I didn't know we even had that graphic.
I thought
this is how like
I thought we were getting bombed or something. Like it was like World War III or something.
The Iowa State OC to be not even it's not even like a real pass game specialist in the NFL.
Wow, Shieldhouse. Look, I mean, all these kids have already played. I remember when he played.
I know.
It's going by so quick, man. I'm way older than him. Well, there's another example of what we were talking about. Yeah. I mean, I think if you got the choice, we said this. If you have the choice, how are you not jumping in the NFL? I mean, Harbaugh took Notre Dame's safeties coach, and Notre Dame was going to pay more. He's like, nah, I want to coach in the NFL. Don't blame him. I would rather coach in the NFL too, and I'm a college guy. So we're going to see more and more of that. Kudos. Thumbs up. Any of these guys jump in the NFL, I give 2 thumbs up because I would too. Generally speaking, I'm all for the players getting paid. But can you imagine you're going to recruit a kid that you possibly, like, say it's a quarterback, he could be making more than you, some punk ass 17-year-old kid. You busted your ass for 10, 15 years. You moved your young family 3-4 times across the country already. And you're one of the better position coaches in the country. And this punk ass 17-year-old kid's demanding more money from you. What the fuck? No way. And not for me. I mean, I got a little bit of ego in that regard. Wouldn't you? How would you feel doing that?
Yeah, I'm with you. I think there's and just the fact that you have to keep recruiting them in general and keeping these guys on the wagon. Not enough now to be recruiting the 15, 16, 17-year-old kids, but trying to keep your own roster together. And then it is a job not for the weary anymore, in terms of, especially as you're saying, the lower level position guys or any of that stuff that aren't making the, it's easy to do it when you're making 10 million, when you're making 300,000 or something, that living in a high cost of living area, then it's a tough job.
I'll give kudos to Zach. I don't get shook up very much anymore, but that was I didn't know. You know how it comes across your phone, like it's an Amber Alert or it's like a tornado warning. I thought that StreamYard maybe had a feature like that for some war that's starting or something. So I don't know. That was nuts. Kudos for you, Zach, for that. That was so unexpected. Have you ever seen that before?
No, that's what I was gonna say. He's breaking the 6 weeks off season, and now Zach Phillips has got the new grad. He was working himself.
Yeah, he was working his craft. I don't use producer extraordinaire for nothing. I don't use that term lightly. Kudos for that, because I was like, what the hell is going on here? Trevor in the chat, what do you guys think about Avery Johnson in Kansas State? Well, I'll be honest with you. And this kind of ties in with Ohio State. Why I'm not so like, Ohio State national champ, because is Kansas State crying with Will Howard leaving? Or, he left for Ohio State? No, because they got their guy, Avery Johnson. All he has to do is develop a little bit better as a passer, and they got as talented of a quarterback as they've had probably since, I'm dating myself here, Roberson, probably 20 years ago. Yeah. The kid, I got to think of the kid, number 7 on the 98 team. I can't think of it. Somebody in the chat get that. Starts with a B, I think. That's the time they haven't had the generational type talent at quarterback for Kansas State. So I am high on Kansas State again. One of the favorites in the Big 12. Their win total is 9.5. I'm okay with it. It sounds high in the Big 12.
Bishop nailed it. Zach Bigelow. Yep.
There you go. Trevor, Michael Bishop. Yeah, I knew it started with a B. Michael Bishop, one of the best. You want to watch YouTube highlights? One of my favorite players in the 90s. I can't believe I couldn't think of that off the top of my head. Trevor in the chat, Iowa State. Okay, we hit that. OC just hired. And they just lost another coach too. That's a team that does not got a lot, going to be really high in returning production off obviously overachieved considerably last year, considering what was going on off the field of the gambling stuff there. Our buddy doesn't handle expectations too well, Matt Campbell. So that might be a team as we get closer to the season, I kind of want to fade. Expectations are going to be too high. Charles in the chat, speaking of the NFL draft, you guys have anything for it? Have you bet anything yet?
No, honestly.
I would like an over-under on McCarthy. I want to bet under, meaning he's going to go earlier than expected.
Really, the only thing out there is like the number 1 pick still. So there's just not many markets out there. I took a flyer on a little bit of Drake May at one point, but I don't think that's good. I just think it's going to be Caleb Williams 1 overall, whether it be Commanders or Bears, whoever in that. But there's just nothing out there to be. We'll see some more markets open up, but right now, places have gotten a little bit more cautious with that. Unfortunately,
another market that was. Nice 5-figure day at least, even for guys that don't bet that much.
Right.
And I know a lot of guys that was a 6-figure type of event. No longer probably going to be the case.
Agreed.
So we'll see. RBB 14 in the chat. Thoughts on the Indiana hire and portal additions? Yep, like the hire, to say the least. A little bit surprising that they were able to jump on a guy like that from James Madison. Speaking of James Madison, he basically pulled all his best players from James Madison. I counted 9 starters from JMU. Now, how are they going to play in the Big Ten, especially a tougher Big Ten? We'll see. I will say, whoever put out them odds for FanDuel, pretty optimistic about Indiana, putting that at 5.5. They're pretty big fans of Cignetti. I'm a big fan of Cignetti, but if you're catching my drift, maybe not as big of a fan as that, if you catch that one. So, if you want win total bets, you're going to have to pay attention. That was one I made. Did you bet that one or no? You haven't bet any, have you?
You know what? I would lean that way as well. I think the at least if you're Indiana, this is a very Rutgers situation where they definitely spent some. I mean, they kept a few, like they were trying to. Michigan, I know, was one trying to poach one of the wide receivers off the roster. A couple other teams were coming in. They spent some money to keep some of their guys and bring over the James Madison crew. Now they've got a relative
from Ohio at quarterback. That's a good addition.
Yep, they've got there's a shot. I'm not saying it happened, but there's a shot to start 4-0, 5-0 in this. Again, they have to go, but FIU, Western Illinois, Charlotte is a pretty friendly non-con, and then they got UCLA, Maryland, Northwestern. So they're pretty backloaded with the schedule, but. If things go right there for Cignetti in year 1, I could see them potentially. I wouldn't bet the over. I could see potentially going some bowl eligibility.
Brick in the chat. First win total jumped out to me was Iowa juice 7.5. It was 6.5. I did not bet it. That's already moved to win. I don't know, man. Iowa. Where are
Listen,
you at? They've been so fortunate, man. I mean, they shouldn't have won 10 games last year. I think the defense is going to be terrific. That's one where Connolly's numbers are off on the returning production. Defense is way higher than what he has it. So they'll be elite there. I don't like the Lester they bring in as an OC. It can't be any worse there, but I don't know. I don't know if the ball's going to bounce their way. Again, there's no longer the Big Ten West. So, I mean, no, I don't like 7.5. In fact, I'd probably lean under.
yeah, no, and listen, and I know it's juiced over. I listen, if somebody gave me something starting with an 8, I would appreciate that very much here at some point in the season there, because that would
I'm
be
waiting on that. I'm waiting.
Yeah. We'll see what comes out elsewhere if the market's that bullish on Iowa. I agree with you. I mean, we can call there was the last year was the run good year of all time, in terms of that team winning 10 wins. There was that stat where no team that finished dead last in offensive production had won more than 4 games in the last 15 years.
And
they won
10. Yeah.
10. And what's changed it? You can say Cade McNamara was, should be healthy again. The guy's been hurt his whole college career, and hired another core. They haven't brought in any of this spectacular offensive talent. So
Proctor at tackle should help him. That offensive line was hurting.
I agree. That
was
nice.
Knock some weight off him. He's too fat. I mean, Michigan handled him and that whole Alabama offensive line, but not there yet. I mean, the bet that was to make over was 6.5. Again, I didn't bet that. Some other people were betting it there. I agree with you. I'm waiting to see if an 8 pops under for me. Mike in the chat, longtime follower, or the friend of the program. Uncle K and Grandpa Brad. I like that. I've been called that. Why is Oklahoma over 7.5 the lock of the year? It was 6.5. That was one I sent to you.
That was I
didn't get down though on that. That was bet. I don't like over 7.5. I don't think that's a lock. Do you think that's a slam dunk lock? I don't.
No, and I know Mikey V. The Sooner through and through. I agree. I like the 6.5. I don't like the 7.5. A full win is it's a
7.5's about right. Yeah, that seems low, but have you looked at the schedule? There's no more Iowa States and TCUs and stuff. I mean, you got them replaced with Tennessee, Auburn, Texas is still there, at Ole Miss, at LSU, Alabama, and at LSU to close. Ooh, tough.
Yep.
I know they won't celebrate it, but I think 8-4 would be a really good first season for them with Venables in the SEC.
Agreed.
Christ of Harper again. Utah 9.5, Kansas 8.5. I haven't bet those two. Sounds about right. Kansas also in the mix there. I mean, I need to watch Big 12 spring games because the gap between the 10 teams at the top of the league is very slim. I need more information to distinguish. I think that's the one we'll be talking in the summer that you take a fly. This is the future bet I would make. That would be the one conference where I wouldn't be afraid to take a team that, is slated for 10th in the standings. The bet them 60, 70, 80 to 1 to win the conference. I think it's the margin of error in that conference is very tight. So I did not bet that one. I did bet a few in that conference, but Utah seemed right at 9.5. We'll see if he's healthy, rising again. I want to see the spring. Kansas loses their offensive coordinator. We'll see how healthy their quarterback is. They don't have Bean to fall back on anymore. So again, I give me a couple months, guys, and then I'll be happy to give you every single freaking 100 win total bets. Ryan in the chat, Michigan State over 5.5. I do like the hires. 5.5 is pretty optimistic. What do you think?
Yeah, that's where I would like. I again love the hires. Think they're putting money in the program. It's just, I think they're going to need a year to kind of get it together. And I know he brought over a couple pieces from Oregon State. Childs, the quarterback in that.
Yeah, I like Childs. I like Belling at tight end.
Yeah. And so it shouldn't be this massive transition cost, but the end of the Tucker era, the roster was looking pretty rough. And you could see it in that Michigan. Anytime they went up against a upper tier opponent last year, they got destroyed. And
Yeah.
so, and that, I don't think that was a total schematic. It was like they just didn't have the player. So I think he needs a year to collect. Now, it's not, they didn't get the hardest draw, but
Well,
I
they
wouldn't.
still got the Buckeyes, Oregon, Michigan.
Yeah.
I
I
mean,
wouldn't. Yeah,
and are they
5.5.
that much better? They're not that much slam dunk better than the Indianas, the Iowas, the Illinois, the Purdue's, the Rutgers of the world. I bet under. That was a bet I made. I bet under. And I love Jonathan Smith.
Yeah.
I think the increased strength of schedule hurts teams like this. He needs a couple recruiting classes and a couple years to get that roster better. Because you'll wear down in November if you're not right with these schedules getting a little bit tougher.
Yep, I agree.
And those are the teams that hurts. The Michigan States, Iowas of the world. Charles in the chat, Clemson over 9.5. I didn't make that bet. I do think people are sleeping on them a little bit, but I'll tell you a couple worries. Klubnik, I've never seen really the light bulb go on him. And the light bulb clearly hasn't gone on for their head coach, Dabo. You got to hit the portal, bud. 0 transfer portal additions. You're playing with one hand tied behind your back. I mean, come on. I'm not saying you got to go portal heavy and go 15 guys every year, but you got to fill your roster holes, especially like coming out of spring, 3-4 guys, go and grab them. He's not going to commit to that. They can be a playoff contending team. They could be maybe even the best team in the ACC this year with Florida State probably coming back. But are they capable of winning a national championship? Nope. Not until he embraces the portal.
I'm totally with, like, I'm out on the Dabo train. Like, maybe things will change, but like I'm off the Dabo bandwagon in terms of believing Clemson can turn, unless he makes significant change. I don't see it. I don't think he's of that mindset, and I don't know. I honestly, I think it could get, I don't want to say ugly, but just like at some point, I don't know. They're real lucky that the ACC, a lot of the ACC is in bad shape, and they can still take advantage of that. Because if they took the money and went over to the SEC or something, they'd be in for a rude awakening if they played real teams. So,
well, speaking of that, they play a real team in the opener, and there's a reason why they're, just to put in perspective, you don't believe us. They're a double-digit underdog week 1. They played Georgia Bulldogs. I laid the points in that game. And I think Clemson could be the best team in the ACC this year, but that gap is just only getting wider. You got to embrace the portal. Spammy Sosa. This will be one of the last ones. Are we going back to the well with Diego Pavia and Jerry Kill at Vandy this year? I love the chat. I'm not bet that one of you.
I have not. No one's been harder on Vanderbilt. Like, it doesn't get talked about enough. They were like the worst team. I got ATS, like worst team relative to expectations last year. In terms of like, but I mean, they've got Alcorn, Georgia State, and Ball State on the docket this year. And then if you can steal any SEC game, I don't know which one you're gonna. They got hammered in terms of this SEC schedule, though.
You got hammered in the portal too. Yeah, you bring in Diego Pavia, but I mean, see how many guys left. Everybody that had a pulse last year left.
I listen, like I don't think they have any shot to win like legitimate SEC game. So it's maybe South Carolina at home, but even then, so you basically got to sweep your lower tier non-con. So no, I wouldn't be. I listen. Nobody loves me. Some Pavia and Kill, but I'm not partaking in that one.
The best actionable advice: the team that they left, that will be a big time sell team for old Brad Powers. Do not like the hire. Do not like what's left on that roster. I'm talking, and a team off a historically great season, New Mexico State. Couple more. These weren't starting the chat, but. You want to go head to head? Texas, Michigan, 2.5 at FanDuel? No,
that's at Michigan, right?
Yeah, it's at Michigan. I think it's week 2. We'll go
head to
head.
Give me points, baby. Give me the points.
Right, yeah, I'll take
Michigan. Sark. No, he's not coming to Ann Arbor and getting it done. Jackie Tuttle starts his Heisman campaign with a win over Quinn Ewers.
Love it. Head to head. Mark that. I know it's early, Zach, but I'll mark that down. I'll lay the 2.5. Another game that'll probably close. Yeah, let's take 2.5 when it's going to be 3.5 or more. Fun. Ryan in the chat, Baylor under 5.5. Yes, that is a bet I made. I think dead man walking for Aranda this year. Even with DeQuan Finn from Toledo, quarterback. Yeah, I know the Big 12 is wide open, but I don't like that team. Harry in the chat, Notre Dame's made some good moves. Will do well in this environment. They won't be negatively affected by the portal like most teams. I mean, they had some guys leave, but they picked up some good guys. And I think most importantly for the Irish, they locked up 2 coordinators. So we were kind of getting at how do you make your job easier on your head coach is hire somebody to run the offense. They did that. Mike Denbrock coming over from LSU. Hire a guy that can handle the defense. Obviously, Al Golden. And just be the CEO. Go out and recruit, do your thing. And you don't have to, you're not involved in the X's and O's meetings. Have the 2 guys, 2 really good coordinator hires, pay them really good money. They locked them up, I think, to 4-year, $9 million contracts a piece. So Notre Dame's spending some money. I said this. Remember, we did a national championship show. I said, I'm getting some good vibes about this damn program for the first time in 3 decades. Will they win the title this year? No. Will they win it in my lifetime? Probably not. No. But they're spending money finally. They haven't, believe it or not, for a long time. They've hoarded it. It's probably appropriate that their mascot's a leprechaun, holding the gold and stuff like that. Now they are actually freaking spending it. So I'm a little bit happier when it comes to the Irish. That win total's not out yet. I'm anxious to see what that opens because I think I'm going to be betting the over. Very favorable schedule.
I agree. They've been
especially if they beat A&M. They beat A&M. That's their toughest game in week 1, which is possible. Elko's first game. Go look at that schedule. Give me the loss. Give me the game that they'll be an underdog in. There won't be one.
No, I'm with you. They've gotten their business, down pretty well here. Okay, after that OC hiring disaster of not paying up for the Utah OC and like the last few quarterback cycles, the transfer portal, they've gotten their business done pretty well.
Where's that at? Brent in the chat? Where's that at? 9.5 over -144. Is that FanDuel?
Let's see here. It does look like the independent dropped at the bottom there.
All right. Well, we're gonna end the show, folks. So that'll do it. Please do not move that. So that's what I'll be doing here in the next 2 minutes. So unless you got any closing thoughts, I thought it was we went longer than I thought. I thought we go a half hour. Hell, we went 70 minutes. I'll tell you that'll do it. I don't know when we'll be back. We'll do probably a couple shows before we start doing them weekly. I think I was telling Zach before the show when you're fashionably late, I was thinking, we won't start doing them every single week until probably April when we'll have spring games, portal, and then, more books opening up, win totals. We'll have week 1 lines up probably in May. So we'll probably start doing every single week. We'll commit to it sometime in April. But before then, we'll do a show or 2. We'll see who else opens up some stuff, and we'll get you guys covered. Good questions. It's always you guys drive the discussion. You ask good questions, we'll try to give good answers. Any closing thoughts, man?
No, I think I agree. It was good to get back into it, get the juices flowing a little bit, and get into the spring here.
All right. For the man, the myth, the legend himself, Joey Knish, producer extraordinaire, Zach Phillips. I am merely Brad Powers. And keep in mind, guys, hit the books. Brought to you. I didn't even pay the bills. You want to talk about a guy that's out of touch? We're brought to you by BetStamp. The easiest way to improve as a sports bettor is to use multiple sports books and always get the best odds. We recommend using an odds comparison tool like BetStamp. BetStamp compares odds across every sports book for games, futures, and player props. You can save time and money by checking BetStamp before you bet. Download the app today. If you're looking to sign up for a new sportsbook account, please check out the offers available at betstamp.app/hitthebooks. Or you can hit the link in the description. If you sign up through this page, it does help support the show. Thanks for supporting the show. That'll do it, guys. We'll talk to you guys in the future. Take care.